In recent decades, the Asia-Pacific region has made great strides in reducing extreme poverty thanks to vibrant trade and investment. Income and opportunities have risen, driven by innovation and commitment, and women are helping to power this growth. Yet gaps remain on gender equality both in work and in society. The East Asian Pacific region has closed 2/3 of its economic gender gap so far. But to fully close the gap, it could take another 100 years. Closing gender gaps in work and society would add up to $4.5 trillion to the region. To accelerate this timeline, UN Women and the European Union launched We Empower Asia to catalyze business action towards gender equality and increase women's full and equal economic participation. In China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, we work with companies, investors, workers, policymakers, civil society, and a wide range of stakeholders, focusing on 3 areas. First, we create an enabling business environment for women. Second, we promote women-owned businesses and gender-inclusive entrepreneurship. And third, we advance gender-inclusive business cultures through the Women's Empowerment Principles, or WEPs. The WEPs are 7 principles that guide companies to promote gender-equal corporate leadership, inclusive and safe workplaces, equal pay for work of equal value, gender-responsive supply chain, marketing and community advocacy practices, and transparency and accountability of business at large. As we strive to build a more inclusive future for all, join us, along with thousands of business leaders around the world, who are now driving progress for women, turning their promises into reality, because gender equality is more than just a moral responsibility. It's also great for business.
Think about the impact of a signature. Think about the magnitude of a global movement. Think about the difference you can make and the power of transformative change. By signing the Women's Empowerment Principles, you can galvanize your shareholders and stakeholders to drive change in the workplace, marketplace, and community through a framework of 7 principles. Brought to you by UN Women and UN Global Compact, the Women's Empowerment Principles are a roadmap for business sustainability, innovation, and productivity. Businesses by the thousands and in every sector are becoming part of this world-changing movement to advance gender equality. Businesses that become models for attracting talent, entering new markets, serving their communities, and measurably improving the bottom line. Because gender equality means better business. Don't miss this moment to make a lasting impact on your employees, suppliers, customers, and investors. Join leading companies already on the journey to greater sustainability and growth. Commit to the Women's Empowerment Principles and make today your organization's signature moment.
Noon pa man, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa marubdob na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasapi sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Kabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Ayaw magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dilim mo'y buhay. Lupang hiniram, gulatan ng magiging, sa manlulupin, di ka masisingil. Sa dagat tulog, sa singil at sa langit mong bahag, nagilan ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng patawad mo'y tagumpay na naglilingin. Tuwing nag-araw na kailan pa maliwanag, lumarang araw ng 100% buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Ang higaya ng pag-ay makahamit, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mylena Biva, the president of Women's Business Council Philippines, and today is the 6th and final installment of the I Am Woman WOMENar Learning Series. I Am Safe, Safe Space Act, and Anti-Harassment Primer. For those who would like to please share the link, please do share it. We do have already exceeded the maximum number of participants in this webinar, but you can view us in the womenbiz.ph Facebook link, please. Okay, so going back, this I Am Safe, Safe Space Act, Anti-Harassment Primer. This webinar is a topic that has a personal connection with me. And why? Because I was a victim of sexual harassment. Not once, but twice in my life. The first time was when I was a young, fresh college graduate. I applied for an internship in the United States in the mid-80s, and I was fortunate to get hired since it was a turbulent time in the Philippine history, and working overseas was an opportunity for me to be away from the political and economic instability brought about by the EDSA revolution. I worked as the International Trade Relations Officer of a plastic parts manufacturing company in Detroit, Michigan. And I was the only female Asian in the company. I endured months of name calling by my male boss, who felt insecure that I had a college degree and he did not. I was also the only Asian in the company. Well, one day I got fed up and told him off. I said, "I'm just doing my job, and if you don't do your job, I'll take it from you." True enough, I did take his job. The second time was in 2001, during the time when I was starting Philippine Robotics Olympiad. It was the first time for the Philippine Robotics national team to participate in an international robotics competition. At the time, it was held in Beijing, China. I had to acquire the services of engineering professors to provide technical preparation for the team. Robotics, engineering, and mechatronics is a male-dominated field during that time until today. Upon arrival in Beijing, one professor treated me like his personal assistant. and demanded that I pay for his tour to the Great Wall of China. I told him our company only shouldered his airfare, accommodations, and meals, and that's it. But he insisted that I shoulder his travel fees to the Great Wall of China. So I told him our company is not going to do that. He got angry, yelled at me in front of the students and the coaches of the Philippine robotics team. I did not fight back and shout at him, but what I did was I said, this decision is done and that his demands will not be given. And I wrote the university, the president where he was teaching about the incident, and he was transferred to another campus, not in Metro Manila, but in a faraway campus in the province. Back then, I was alone. No social protection, but only my family and the Philippine robotics community to support me. Today, the Philippine Constitution values the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. It also ensures fundamental equality before the law of women and men. Furthermore, the Constitution recognizes that both men and women must have equality, security, and safety, not only in private places, but also on the streets, public spaces, online, workplaces, and educational or training institutions. In pursuit of all these, the Safe Space Act was enacted. And as you have seen in the video, I congratulate the Philippine Commission on Women. We have with us Philippine Commission on Women Chair, Sandy Montano, and later on our speaker, Executive Director, Attorney Christine Yuzon Chavez. I congratulate you because last August 15 is the 12th year anniversary of the Magna Carta of Women, RA 9710, the comprehensive law which makes women's human rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination through the recognition, protection, fulfillment, and promotion of the Filipino rights of the Filipino women. I would like to express my gratitude to the Women Biz moderators, speakers, panelists, case study authors, book cover artists, and Women Biz member audience who participated in I Am Woman WOMENar Learning Series and ebook project. To our supportive partners, the Department of Trade and Industry, the Philippine Commission on Women, UN Women, the Department of Science and Technology, the Indian Women in Enterprise, Philippine Business for Social Progress, Philippine Marketing Association, Association of Filipino Franchise Incorporated, Zonta International, and our other private partner organizations. This is it. We are at our final webinar. Oh, so sad that we're going to end this, but the output of all our conversations will be at the I Am Woman Guide for Business and Corporate Leaders, which will be launched on September 16. No one, woman or man, need to feel inferior or afraid because there are laws to protect us. Let us all learn from our speakers, chapter lead, and panelists. Welcome to the I Am Safe webinar. Thank you very much. Now let's move on to the UN Women, Ms. Rosaline Lenlen Messina.
Many thanks, Mylene, and thank you for that personal sharing. I believe all of us here in the room, 100 of us, and those who are watching via the social media platforms could have their own also personal stories to share about such experiences, which we hope would not be a thing now with the law, but sadly it continues to happen. And globally, violence against women and girls is estimated to cost countries around 3.7% of the gross domestic product because of loss of income, opportunities, workplace productivity. That is according to a World Bank study estimate. And this is because harassment and unsafe spaces, unsafe workplaces is a demotivation for a lot of women to really go to work, report, and show up, since they would feel very, very unsafe and insecure in such a space. negative gender stereotypes, violence, and harassment, among other issues, impact women's access to resources, finance, training, and ability to advance work in our businesses. And I'm sure many of us would have, kwento from another friend, kwento from a kamag-anak, or our own story, how we would receive such comments or, pasimpleng hirit on things na, o sige, approve ko to, pero kain muna tayo sa labas. O kaya naman, gusto mong mapabilis to, sige, pag-usapan natin sa labas. Which at times, we have sort of started to accept as something normal, part of the regular transaction that we need to really work with, but it cannot be that way. We have laws and we have human rights, and we need to be able to assert these things and these rights because we need to be treated equally, and we need to be treated with respect in whatever field and in whatever work that we do. I hope this afternoon's session, though sad, yes, that it is the last of our lessons or learning session series together, could ring a bell to, to the work that we all want to do. It is not just the law that we need to count, to protect us, that we as individuals, we as women business leaders, women entrepreneurs, women employees, women government workers, faculty members, teachers have a role to play. We can be instruments of perpetrating harassment or violence, or we can be instrument to make sure that safe spaces are created, not just for us, but for all of the people around us. By keeping quiet and not calling out harassing behavior or a very unwelcome comment or a joke for that matter, would just continue to make this, happen. And if we stand our ground, try to be the difficult person, disrupt the conversation, or challenge whoever is pursuing unwelcome remarks or jokes, then we are being part of that solution, and we are being part of a platform that would offer safe spaces for everyone. I hope that this afternoon, as we listen to the sharing, the story, and also the, key parts of the law that would be discussed by Attorney Gray, we learn and we try to digest them and reflect on them and really see how that is something we could apply in our day-to-day lives, in the work we do, in the business we run, but also in our community and in our own personal spaces. So with that, I am really so happy to continuously be supporting and being part of this project by the Women Business Council of the Philippines, and UN Women, We Empower Asia is very, very pleased to find other avenues to empower and support more women moving forward. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Thank you very, very much, Len. And yes, today's topic, although the sixth in the series, is something that is so important to all of us. I too have had my share of sexual harassment, and we really need that safe space for us, not just in the workplace, but at home and everywhere. So we have so many things to discuss today. There will be two parts to this program. And the first part will be sharing by two resource persons. And then the second part will be the learnings that our case authors have put together. And we do have a case lead who will moderate that discussion and bring out all the learnings that the Women Biz authors who have been part of the study will share. Now, please do let us know your feedback. We have, as you can see on the lower right part, We have some hashtags that you can use where you can, when you post on social media, share your love, tell us what you think about the discussions that are happening. If you do have any questions for any of our panelists or our resource people, please post them on the question and answer button. And now I have the honor of introducing our first speaker. She is one of the leading litigation lawyers in the country. She's the founder and senior partner of Kapunan, Garcia, and Castillo Law Offices. And she is also a trustee of the Women's Business Council. She has been recognized by the Asia Business Law Journal as one of the Philippines' top 100 lawyers for 2018 and 2019. This is the A-list of lawyers of the country. Her expertise includes licensing law, franchising, corporate and commercial law, joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, international humanitarian law, family law, estate law, and succession. She is an awardee of the Outstanding Women in the Nation Service or Towns, the Filipino Women's Network 100 Most Influential Filipino women leaders in the world. Lorna sits in a lot of boards of major corporate clients as corporate secretary, as compliance officer and director, and she is actively involved in various social civic groups. She has served as past president and current director of the Intellectual Property of the Philippines, as council of the ASEAN Patent Attorneys Association, as past chairman of the Copyright Committee, past regional president of the ASEAN Intellectual Property Association, past chairman and president of the Women's Business Council, and past chairman of UN Women, among many others. She graduated from the University of the Philippines with an AB Political Science and LLB, and has lectured at the European-based International Center for Legal Studies and Mandatory Continuing Legal Education. And by the way, you can catch her weekly in her column at the Business Mirror called Legally Speaking, as well as on radio with her weekly teleradio Laban para sa Karapatan, DWIZ 882 AM. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the feisty attorney Lorna Pataho Kapunan. Lorna? You're on mute, my dear. Okay, while we're trying to get Lorna on board, because she's the one who's going to give us the first lessons for today, we will be having a second speaker after. Okay, I can now see Lorna, and she's being assisted. Okay, Lorna, please unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you now see this?
Yes.
Okay, let me try to put a 3-hour lecture into a 15-minute presentation. Kayang-kaya natin to. So I will be talking about the Safe Spaces Act and of course, sexual harassment under the new law. So what is the Safe Space Act? We will call it for short the Anti-Bastos Law. And it defines gender-based sexual harassment in public spaces. And you will see the meaning of public spaces in a bit. Why do we need a Safe Spaces Act? Because as our president has said, Mylene, there is constitutional basis. We find in the Constitution a provision on the dignity of every human person and the guarantee for human rights. Also in the Constitution is the fundamental equality before the law of women and men, and it is also a right to have equality, security, and safety, not only in private, but also in streets, public spaces, online, workplaces, educational, and training institutions. As mentioned earlier, the UN Safe Cities and Safe Public Spaces program, an astounding 88% of our women aged 18 to 24 experience sexual harassment in public spaces. However, only 2 in 5 women, that's only 41%, of age 15 to 49 have ever mentioned the sexual harassment to anyone, nor have sought help. Before we had the anti-Bastos law, we also had legislation on harassment. One of them is the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, or Republic Act 7877. Of course, we have the revised penal code on unjust fixation and the Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act, or RA 9262. What is the difference between the Safe Space Act and these various laws? In the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, the aggressor is a person of power. The Anti-Sexual 1995 is not about sex, it is about power. So the aggressor is either a superior teacher coach who demands, requests, or otherwise requests any sexual favor from the victim, regardless of whether the demand, request, or requirement is accepted. So the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act required that the aggressor had a superior position. In the revised penal code on unjust vexation, it was required because it is a penal law under the penal code, it required criminal intent. Now, the difference in the Anti-Bastos law and all these previous laws is that in the case of the Safe Spaces Act, there is a violation of the law regardless of whether there is a criminal or intent or intention to make bastos. And the offender need not be a superior. It could be an equal, a peer, a subordinate. In fact, that aggressor could be anyone. The important features of the Bawal Bastos law are as stated. It expanded the concept of sexual harassment. The personal space is no longer a private space. It includes streets, public spaces, cyberspace or online space, aside from workplaces and in educational and training institutions. Likewise, we had graduated penalties for severity and recidivist. Yung mga laging nambabastos, mas mabigat ang penalty. It also expanded the duties and liabilities of employers in workplaces and heads of educational and training institutions, and likewise, local government units and national government agencies are duty bearers. They are obliged and mandated under the law for its implementation. Likewise, we must remember that the Bawal Bastos law is the first piece of legislation in Philippine history that recognizes transgenders, mga LGBTI, and it recognizes that they should be accorded special legal protection. It is also the first time under this law that we recognize the evils of transphobia and homophobia as wrongs to be deterred. So what is covered by this? What do you mean by public space? Well, public space, as I said, could be anywhere. And what are the offenses? The first degree offense, or what you call light offenses, are the following: catcalling. Catcalling refers to unwanted remarks. Oy, ang sexy mo naman. Oy, ang ganda mo naman ngayon. Pwede bang ngiti dyan? Wolf whistling. Leering and intrusive gazing, taunting, unwanted invitations, cursing, misogynistic remarks or slurs. Kayo, nare-rape kasi nagsusuot kayo ng shorts, kanya kayo nare-rape. O kayong mga babae, pang-sex lang kayo, wala namang kayong kwenta kundi pang-kama lang. These are misogynistic remarks or slurs, or belief that men are inherently better than women.
This has been adequately covered in television when it was first launched. And of course, prohibited also is homophobic remarks. Hoy, bawal ang dumaan ng mga bakla dito. Homophobic remarks. Other examples would be, ay bakla, hindi kita mapapagkatiwalaan kasi lahat ng bakla nagnanakaw para sa pang sustento ng boyfriend. So any statement in whatever form or however delivered, which are indicative of fear, hatred, or aversion towards persons perceived to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, pansexual, and such other persons of diverse sexual orientation or gender identity or expression is now prohibited under the Bawal Bastos Law. Sexist remarks or slurs, ay babae yan, bobo yan, kulang sa utak yan. So this is an example. Statements in whatever form or however delivered that are indicative of prejudice, stereotyping, or discrimination on the basis of sex, typically against women, are now penalized under the Safe Space Law or the Bawal Bastos Law. Other examples are persistent, uninvited, unwanted comments or gestures on one's appearance, relentless requests for one's personal details. Oy, anong pangalan mo, Iha? Ano bang contact number natin? Pwede bang mag-friends tayo sa Facebook? Isang ka pupunta ngayon? Baka naman pwede tayo magsama. Examples. Use of words, gestures, or actions that ridicule on the basis of sex, gender, or sexual orientation. Persistent telling of sexual jokes. Yan, mga green jokes na yan. Bawal na yan ngayon. Well, dating bawal na yan. Sexual comments on a woman's breasts or legs, or the absence of breasts or nice legs. The use of sexual names, comments, and demands. In other words, for our viewers and listeners to remember, any advance, whether verbal or physical, that has made an invasion of your own personal space or that threatens your sense of personal safety is a violation of the Bawal Bastos Law and is actionable under the law. So those are the light offenses, and it is punishable from 1,000 pesos to 10,000 pesos if that is the third offense. And hindi lang yon, makukulong kayo for 12 hours if it's the first offense, inclusive of gender sensitivity seminar, or imprisonment if it's the third offense, of up to 11 to 30 days. Light offenses yan. But there are also second-degree offenses or less grave acts, making offensive body gestures at someone, as you can see in the picture, exposing, flashing of private parts, or public masturbation, or other similar lewd sexual actions. They are considered second-degree or less grave offenses and are punishable by fine of from 10,000 pesos to 20,000 pesos. And pwede pa kayong makulong if it is a third offense and second offense of up to 6 months imprisonment. The third degree offenses are the more serious offense. And this, an example, is stalking. Alam niyo naman ang stalking, no? It refers to conduct directed at a person involving the repeated visual or physical. And this must be non-consensual communication or a combination thereof that cause or will likely cause a person to fear one's safety. Kung feeling nyo lagi kayong sinusundan or lagi kayong pina-follow sa Facebook at nagbibigay ng mga threatening messages or lewd messages, stalking yan. And that's a third-degree offense. It can be punished up to 6 months imprisonment or a fine of up to 100,000 pesos. Okay, so where do we find sexual harassment? As I said, streets and public places. Online. Now, public space is cyberspace. It can also be in your workplace and educational training institutions. If it happens in a public space, It is committed through unwanted, uninvited. Remember, those are the operative words. Dapat hindi consensual. Dapat hindi nagbibigay ng consent ang victim. So it must be unwanted and uninvited. And as I said, the difference between this law and the revised penal code is you do not require criminal intent. Kung minsan yung nangbabastos kasi sa upbringing niya o sa walang edukasyon niya, hindi niya alam na nananakit na siya o nangbabastos na siya. It is immaterial under this law because regardless of your malicious or criminal intent or absence thereof, it is a violation of the law. So as earlier defined, streets is defined under the law. Not only does it cover public spaces or those owned by public, open spaces, buildings, schools, churches, restaurants, malls, public washroom, internet shop, government offices, etc. It also applies to privately owned spaces that are open to the public, kagaya ng restaurants. Miski na private ang owner niyan, cafes, bars, resorts, water parks, hotels, casinos, cinema malls, buildings, and other privately owned places open to the public, including other places of recreation. Okay. This will be discussed later by my co-speaker, Attorney Christine Luzon, who will deal with the duties and responsibilities of the owners and employers. Here you see, very briefly, the duties of privately owned places is to put in measures, to have clearly visible and readable warning signs, to provide for hotline numbers, ano ba yung nearest police station in bold letters. And, very important, dapat in privately owned establishment, there must be at least one anti-sexual harassment officer to receive the complaint. The owner must provide a safe gender-sensitive environment and must have protocols to be followed in case of gender-based sexual harassment in their establishment. Ngayon, sino ang pwedeng humuli? Anybody, hindi lang police, any private person may arrest without need of a warrant of arrest under the following circumstances. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Pag may nakita kayong mangbabastos, pwede kayong mang-aresto as a citizen. When in the presence of a private person, the person to be arrested has committed, nakikita niyong yun, namboboso o nambabastos, or is actually committing or is attempting to commit, then you can make a citizen's arrest. When the gender-based sexual harassment has already been committed and the private person has personal knowledge of the fact, then you should report it to persons in authority. Of course, it is very important for everybody to have awareness and training seminars. Okay. It doesn't only happen in space, it happens in public utility vehicles, common carriers, because when you ride a taxi or a public transportation, there is a contract. Kasi may service na kailangan dalhin nyo kung saan kayo pupunta at may bayad. So that is a contract and it is called a contract of carriage. And these are common carriers. And therefore, if it is committed in a common carrier, then it is punishable under the law, and the license of this common carrier can be cancelled. These are examples. If the perpetrator is the driver of the vehicle, it also constitutes a breach of contract. And there is a presumption. Kung driver yan, hindi naman owner yung driver, there is a presumption that the employer knows and is also a co-principal. These are examples. I won't go through them. If you want to look at examples, they are available. The source is Philstar and of course, online cases on sexual harassment. What if the offender is a minor? Is the minor relieved of responsibility or criminal liability? In case the offender is a minor, the Department of Social Welfare should take the necessary disciplinary measures and diversion program as provided for in the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006. And this includes gender appropriate sensitivity training and anti-sexual harassment awareness activities. Ibig sabihin nun, pag minor ang offender, hindi pwedeng ikulong, pero dapat mandatory ang training program. Siguro, my contribution here is dapat kasama yung parents kasi wala namang bastos na anak pag walang bastos na parent. Local government units, I think this will be discussed by Christine. The LGUs are office bearers and they have the primary responsibility under this Republic Act. These are the duties of the local governments and the LGUs. Of course, it's very important that since this is a legislation, there must be implementing ordinances. So the local government units must enact local ordinances to implement the anti-bastos law. And I'm very happy to report that Quezon City, under Mayor Joy Belmonte, was the first to come out with an ordinance, and I think against the anti-bastos law. Who can apprehend the MMDA? As I said, the PNP, and there must. Please ensure that there is a Women and Children's Protection Desk in your local PNP. Of course, these days, especially the time of pandemic, public space includes online space or cyberspace. And it is the same, whether it is physical space or cyberspace. The offenses are likewise punishable if committed online. And this includes use of information and communications technology in terrorizing and intimidating victims through physical, psychological, emotional threats, invasion of a person's privacy through cyber stalking and incessant messaging. Paano kung meron request, please follow? Kung sinabi please follow, pwede namang i-follow because that is consent. But uploading and sharing without the consent of the victim in any form of media like photos, voice, or video with sexual content is punishable. Or filing of false abuse reports to online platforms to silence the victims, or if you are impersonating identities of victims online or posting lies about victims to harm their reputation, pwede kayong ikulong kasi violation ng batas yan. Examples, this is a client of mine, Julia Barreto versus Jay Sonsa. Sabi sa cyberspace, nabuntis siya ni boyfriend niya, si Gerald Anderson. She filed the case and she won that case. Cyber stalking. So if there is stalking on physical space, public space, there is also what is called cyber stalking. And if it causes you to suffer or emotional distress or to fear for your own safety, then you can file a case under the Bawal Bastos law. Stalking an online profile. If the profile is publicly accessible, kunyari fan club ka lang ni Jadine or ni James Reid, o fan club ka lang ni Monette or ni Mylene, hindi na stalking yon kasi nagpo-post sila ng online profile and it is publicly accessible. Okay, now, the difference between public space, physical space, and online space is there are heavier penalties if it is online sexual harassment. The penalty is a fine of up to 500,000 pesos and imprisonment of up to 4 years. If you are an alien, kung foreigner ka at nambabastos ka, you can be deported after you serve your prison sentence and you pay a fine. If you're the owner of a public vehicle, bus, taxi, Grab, your license or franchise will be automatically revoked. If it is print media, the editor, reporter, or the station manager, kung radyo yan, or broadcaster, will be liable. Okay, this means if it is qualified, that means these are aggravating circumstances. In these instances, if the act takes place, if the pambabastos takes place in a common carrier or a public utility vehicle, if the victim is a minor, a senior citizen, or a PWD, or a breastfeeding mother nursing her child, or if the victim is diagnosed with a mental problem tending to impair her consent, or pag ang nambabastos ay uniform, naka-uniform, such as PNP, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and it was perpetrated while in uniform, or if it happens in the premises of a government agency offering frontline services to the public, and the perpetrator is a government employee, these are aggravating circumstances at mas mabigat ang penalty of fine and imprisonment by 1 degree higher. Again, this is another case, Lisa Soberano versus this person filed criminal charges against an employee of Converge for a Facebook post that said, wala tayong magagawa, wala nang trabaho si Lisa, kaya di bali na, masirang image, magkapera lang. Sarap iparape sa mga ewan. This case was filed and Lisa won that case. In the workplace, I will leave this also in the interest of time to Attorney Christine, the duties of the employer and the employee in the workspace. Please note that the difference, as I said, between this Bawal Bastos law and the previous Anti-Sexual Harassment Act is it is not an issue of power. It does not have to be a boss. It does not have to be a teacher or somebody with authority. Kagaya ng lawyer, client, penitent, priest, dean, teacher, bureau head, employee, mga ganyan. Dito sa Bawal Bastos, pwedeng equal kayo, co-worker mo, or pwedeng subordinate, mas mababa sa'yo, or pwedeng boss mo, a superior officer. So, in other words, the operative word is anyone can be an aggressor, and nobody is exempt from the law. These are the duties of the employer. I will not go through it. Okay, now if you are a co-worker, we also need to respect human dignity because that is exactly the basis of the Bawal Bastos law, that everybody is a human being and everybody deserves human respect. Not only can you file a criminal action for sexual harassment or unjust vexation under the revised penal code or violation of the Bawal Bastos law, you can also file an action for damages in court. So it is not only a criminal case, but a civil case, and the DOLE has the authority or the mandate to inspect all private sector establishments, and for the public sector, the Commission on Civil Service also has oversight functions and shall conduct yearly spontaneous, random, and unannounced inspections to ensure compliance of employees. These are decided cases. I won't go through that. And of course, it can also be committed in educational and training institutions. I will leave that to Attorney Christie. The duties of the school heads are clearly provided under the law. And the students, maraming nakikinig sa atin na students, minor students who are found to have committed acts of gender-based social harassment shall be held liable for administrative sanctions by the school as stated in their school handbook. Kung wala naman kayong school handbook, dapat yung mga nakikinig, panahon na. Gumawa na kayong school handbook, or sa company niyo, if you're in a company, gumawa na kayo ng company handbook. Okay, of course, the victim must be given psychological counseling, and a victim of gender-based violence, gender-based sexual harassment can avail of assistance from the local government unit, the DSWD, in coordination with the Department of Health and the Philippine Commission on Women. Sino ang magbabayad? This will be charged to the perpetrator or yung nambabastos ang magbabayad. Exemptions here, of course, are if the acts are legitimate expressions of indigenous culture and tradition. Nakikita niyo naman sa picture, or as well as breastfeeding in public. These shall not be penalized because there are expressions of indigenous cultures and tradition, among others, the wearing of tribal attires, traditional attires of tribes or clans that may show partial nudity. Avail of the Children and Protection Desk and educational modules. This should be monitored by us, the Women's Business Council, and or participating partners groups dyan. I-check natin yung Gender Appropriations Act na dapat meron tayong portion dyan sa GOD budget to be used for gender-sensitive activities. I will end here in the interest of time. Maraming salamat po. And I turn you now to our moderator, Attorney Mylene. Attorney Mylene, naguluhan ako. And of course, our next speaker will cover whatever I failed to cover. Maraming salamat po. And remember, bawal ang bastos. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Lorna Kapunan, for that really extensive download on the Safe Space Act on this and this anti-bastos law. I really wish this was already in existence years ago when I was a young woman. But in the interest of time, let us proceed. I would like to introduce our next speaker. She is the Executive Director of the Philippine Commission on Women, the primary policy-making and coordinating body on gender equality and women empowerment, as well as the Secretariat for the Interagency Council on Violence Against Women and Children. Prior to her assumption in office, she was in the private practice of law and was also administrator of various businesses, hers and her family's. And my understanding is that it is related to food. She is a staunch women's rights advocate and has been taking on pro bono cases on violence against women and their children. And she has advocated for gender-sensitive policies in the workplace. She is also a young mom, and so she wants to help her children. She's a strong believer in women economic empowerment, has worked with local WSMEs to help them with the local distribution of their product. She is based in Cagayan de Oro, took her studies at the Xavier University of the Ateneo de Cagayan. Let us please welcome Attorney Christine Yuzon Chavez, ED Cray.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Munette. May I share my screen, please? Thank you. All right. So good afternoon once again to the Women's Business Council of the Philippines, and of course, Attorney Kapunan, and the other participants in today's session. Thank you so much for inviting the Philippine Commission on Women to share some inputs on one of the landmark laws under the Duterte administration. This is the RA 11313, or the Safe Spaces Act. This is popularly known as the Bawal Bastos Law. As thoroughly discussed earlier by Attorney Kapunan, the Safe Spaces Act, or the SSA, aims to protect all individuals from gender-based sexual harassment in physical or online spaces. This law is relatively new as it was signed only on April 17, 2019 and came to effect on August 3, 2019. Earlier, Attorney Kapunan ran us through the law from the definition of gender-based sexual harassment, the different acts constituting as GBSH, and the places where this can be committed. All salient points of the law has already been covered by Attorney Lorna, and so I will focus this presentation on the duties and responsibilities of the employers and the employees under the SSA. Before I will proceed, may I first give you a brief overview of our agency, the Philippine Commission on Women, and our role in the implementation of the SSA. PCW is a government agency. We are the primary policy making and coordinating body on all women and gender equality concerns. We are formerly known as the National Commission on the Role of Filipino Women, but with the passage of the Magna Carta of Women in 2009, we were renamed as the Philippine Commission on Women. Under RA 9710, or the Magna Carta of Women, the Commission is tasked to monitor and oversee the implementation of the Magna Carta, as well as to ensure that government agencies are capacitated in its effective implementation and ensure the gender responsiveness of their programs, their projects, and their activities. The Philippine Commission on Women led the development of the implementing rules and regulations of the Safe Spaces Act. Under the IRR, the PCW serves as one of the co-chairperson of the Interagency Committee to oversee the effective implementation of the law. Other chairpersons are the Department of the Interior and Local Government and the Department of Information and Communications Technology. The PCW is also mandated under the SSA to lead the national campaign for the awareness of the SSA. Last year, the PCW and the DILG issued the guidelines for the localization of the Safe Spaces Act. The main purpose of this was to help our local government units come up with their own local ordinances on gender-based sexual harassment. It was also to help them in the dissemination of the information about the SSA and to establish mechanisms to address GBSH, like the Anti-Sexual Harassment or ASH desks in all barangay, city, and municipal halls, and ASH hotlines for reporting abuses committed in the community. The SSA came into fruition because one of the primary considerations of the state is the value it gives to the dignity of every human being. Its commitment to guarantee full respect for human rights, and its recognition that both men and women must have equality, security, and safety, not only in private, but also on the streets, public spaces, online, workplaces, and educational institutions. Despite the primary considerations and the recognition of equality by the state, gender-based violence and sexual harassment is still prevalent everywhere. Sexual harassment violates the dignity of women and their right to humane, just, and safe environments. It constitutes as actions which makes women feel offended, humiliated, and uncomfortable. The SSA, or the Safe Spaces Act, seeks to curtail this social problem by expanding the definition of sexual harassment and the places where this can be committed. As discussed, this was thoroughly discussed by Attorney Lorna earlier. Under the Anti-Sexual Harassment Law of 1997, it was required then that the offender must have the authority, the influence, or moral ascendancy over the victim. But with the passage of the Safe Spaces Act, authority, influence, or moral ascendancy is no longer an element. The fact that unwanted and uninvited sexual actions or remarks against a person is committed is sufficient to qualify as an act of sexual harassment as defined and penalized under the Safe Spaces Act. Many of us here, I believe, operate or manage a business or a company or are working for a business or a company. It is therefore important to know what are our duties and responsibilities as employers and employees under the SSA to ensure that we are also doing our part to create a safe space for all. Earlier, Attorney Lorna discussed the acts punished as sexual harassment under the SSA, including in the workplace. And so I won't go into specifics about the acts punished as gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace. However, in addition to the obligation on employers to refrain from committing acts of harassment themselves, the SSA also mandates the employers to do certain things to further ensure that harassment is prevented in the workplace. Section 17 of the SSA provides that employers or other persons of authority, influence, or moral ascendancy in a workplace shall have the duty to prevent, to deter, or punish the commission of acts of gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace. It is important that these persons shall ensure that there is a dissemination of the law or a posting of a copy of the law in conspicuous places in the workplace. This dissemination may be done sending copies of the law to the heads of different departments, bureaus, offices, or units of the company so that these heads can also disseminate it to the members of their respective units. The employers may also post a copy of the law and its rules online or in the official website of the company, or to conduct orientations about the law and its rules, or maybe create a brochure containing the salient features about the law and remedies available to the victim. A fact sheet containing frequently asked questions about the SSA would also help in the employees' better understanding about the law and their rights. Employers are also mandated to provide measures to prevent gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace by giving orientations for the employees. The employers may conduct anti-sexual harassment seminars, which shall be provided for all employees regardless of rank and status. Employers may also give trainings on gender sensitivity, orientations on gender-based violence, and other relevant topics may also be conducted. Employers are also mandated to create an independent internal mechanism or a committee on decorum and investigation, or CODI. The purpose of this is to investigate and address complaints of GBSH, which shall carry out such functions as mandated under the law. In addition, employers should also develop and disseminate, in consultation with all persons in the workplace, a code of conduct or workplace policy which shall expressly reiterate the prohibition on gender-based sexual harassment, describe the procedures of internal mechanisms created, and set administrative penalties. May I add here also that if you are the owner of a restaurant, a cafe, a bar, a club, a resort, water park, a hotel, and other similar privately owned place open to the public, that there is an additional obligation provided under the law. So owners of these establishments are mandated to adopt a zero tolerance policy against gender-based sexual harassment. They are also required to provide assistance to victims of gender-based sexual harassment committed within their establishment, regardless of whether the victim is an employee or a customer, by coordinating with the local authorities immediately upon receiving a report of gender-based sexual harassment. Owners of these places are also mandated to make CCTV footage available when ordered by the court, and to provide a safe, gender-sensitive environment to encourage victims to report GBSH. Owners of restaurants, bars, cinemas, and other places of recreation are also mandated to install in their business establishments clearly visible signs against gender-based sexual harassment, including a hotline where victims can call and designate. The owners of these establishments are also mandated to designate one anti-sexual harassment officer to receive gender-based sexual harassment complaints. Under the SSA, it is not only the employers who have the duty to who has a duty under the SSA. The employees are and co-workers also have their obligations under the SSA, and these are the duty to refrain from committing acts of gender-based sexual harassment. They are duty bound to discourage the conduct of gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace. They are mandated to provide emotional or social support to fellow employees, co-workers, colleagues, or peers who are victims of gender-based sexual harassment, and an obligation to report acts of gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace. It is important for employers to take seriously their duties under the SSA because in addition to the liabilities of actually committing acts of GBSH, there are liabilities imposed if the employers fail to implement their duties under the SSA or fail to take action on reported acts of GBSH committed in the workplace. If an employer commits acts of GBSH, he or she is liable under the law, which involves imprisonment in most cases. But in addition to that, the employer is also penalized with a fine of not less than 5,000 nor more than 10,000 pesos if the employer fails to implement their duties under the SSA. The employer can also be penalized with a fine of not less than 10,000 nor more than 15,000 pesos if the employer fails to take action on reported acts of GBSH committed in the workplace. It is also important for the employers to note that the Department of Labor and Employment for the private sector and the Civil Service Commission for the public sector will conduct yearly spontaneous, random, and unannounced inspections to ensure compliance by employers of their obligations under the SSA. In case of non-compliance by a public sector employer, an employee may file an administrative complaint with the Civil Service Commission. And in case of non-compliance by a private sector employer, an employee may file a complaint with the Department of Labor and Employment. As stated earlier, employers are mandated to create a committee on decorum and investigation, or CODI. If a company receives reports of sexual harassment, this report should be forwarded to the CODI within 48 hours upon receipt of the complaint. The CODI works to increase the people's understanding about sexual harassment, prevent such incidents, and conduct investigations on complaints received. It is important that membership composition in the CODI should adequately represent the management, the employees from the supervisory rank, the rank and file employees, and the union, if any. A woman should head the CODI, and not less than half of its members should be women. The members should be impartial and not connected or related to the alleged offender. And the CODI should investigate and decide on the complaints within 10 days or less upon receipt of the complaint. The CODI should also observe due process at all times and protect the complainant from possible retaliation and guarantee the confidentiality to the greatest extent possible. Since the law is relatively young, the PCW received a total of only 49 complaints on SSA for years 2020 to 2021. This amounts to about only 5 to 10% of the number of complaints we normally receive. And based on these complaints, we noticed that some of the complainants are turned away by the police or the barangay official to whom they voiced out their complaint. The complainants narrated that the police or the barangay official would say that the act that they're complaining about is not covered by the sexual harassment law. Commonly, they are advised that since it was not committed by the boss or was committed outside of the workplace, it is not covered by the sexual harassment law. We think that this is because many are still unaware about the SSA and how the SSA expanded the acts punished as sexual harassment to include those committed between peers and colleagues. As the lead in the campaign, PCW is doubling its efforts to increase awareness about the SSA and their respective rights and obligations under the law. Because we believe that incidents of violence against women may increase when lockdown was imposed last year, PCW as the secretariat to the Ayak Bausi opened its Bausi hotline for referral services. We received complaints on Bausi, including gender-based sexual harassment. So in case you need assistance, you may email us at ayakbausi@pcw.gov.ph or call us through the numbers flashed in your screens. While what I have discussed is mainly the duties of the employers and the employees on GBSH in the workplace setting, there are other provisions defining and penalizing GBSH committed in other places as discussed by Attorney Lorna. If you want to read more about it, you may visit our website, www.pcw.gov.ph. As the primary policy-making body on women's empowerment and gender equality concerns in the country and the lead in the national campaign on the awareness of the SSA, we call on everyone to help in ending gender-based violence, to treat women as humans with equal rights, and to help build a community where gender-based violence, including sexual harassment, is never justified. Let's join our hands in ending violence against women. And that is all for our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Edie Cray, for sharing with us such important information that we, as employers who had our own organizations, must take into consideration and must be aware of. Can I call back Lorna to join Edie Cray and me here on the virtual stage as we open the floor for questions that our participants have? Yes, I understand that there is already one burning question that is in the chat, which can be seen by the others. So if I can bring this up. Lorna, are you joining us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, there.
I'm here.
Great. Okay, so this is a question from Dr. Bernadette Escalona Cooper. She is, I understand, from California, USA. And the question is the President of the Philippines exempt from the Bawal ang Bastos law because many times his vocabulary is derogatory and offensive? Would you like to take that question, please?
I'll take that question. In fact, Dr. Bernadette is my cousin.
Oh,
Is my cousin. Didit, thank you for this question. There is conventional wisdom in the saying that if you cannot teach an old dog new tricks, what do? You change the dog. That is my answer to that. It is very difficult to, and in most gender sensitive webinars like this, the issue of the president and our high ranking officials following the president's example and even laughing about derogatory remarks is always the white elephant in the room. I think we are all empowered women, and as I have said, anyone can be an aggressor. And the fact that you are a public official, whether you're the highest or the lowest in the land, does not exempt you from criminal responsibility or from the moral responsibility or the ethical responsibility of respecting everyone, male, female, LGBT, all human beings are entitled to respect. So my answer to that, Didit, is yes, there is something very wrong with the system when we allow such transgressions to continue. So it is time for us women to step up and be counted.
thank you for that.
No means no. And if it's repeated several times, several wrongs don't make a right. It is never right at all seasons. Okay, so again, with my starting statement, if you cannot teach an old dog new tricks, you change the dog.
Thank you very much, Lorna. Edie Cray, would you like to add anything to what Attorney Lorna said?
Yes, Ms. Bonette, I agree with Attorney Lorna insofar as she said that no one is exempt from the moral and ethical obligation to respect the dignity of all. So regardless of your position or your stature, you are obligated to respect everyone, including women.
Thank you very much for that. Here's a question that perhaps the two of you could tackle. Although we now have these laws in place, and hopefully there is teeth in it, so that perpetrators are actually learn their lesson. Most times, the victim has fear in her or his heart to speak up because of the repercussions that can happen. How can we help the victims or people who are in the situation? How can we help them to become brave enough to actually do something about it and stop the harassment?
Attorney Christine, youth before beauty. Go ahead.
Okay, I will go first. I think for us, based on our experience, it would be best if the victim is really apprised of her rights under the law. Because in most cases, these women that we get to talk to, they are not aware that they have these remedies under the law. Once they know about it, they tend to act on it and actually file a case and stand up for their rights. So I think it is important to have more activities such as this one, advocacy and awareness raising of the rights of women.
Just a quick question. Do people need to have money to file cases against people in these situations? Will you need?
No, you don't. In fact, you don't need a lawyer here. In fact, as I said earlier, anybody can make an arrest. Anybody can file a case. But again, you cannot but a case will only prosper if the victim will speak up, because it must be from personal knowledge or personal experience, which really is a question, of course, of our past president, Chiqui Escarialgon, when she says, what proof do we need? Well, your proof is yourself. You have to stand up and say, I was wrong. I was shocked to have heard Mylene share her story that even at that stature, she was a victim of sexual harassment at the workplace, and now she's speaking up. But I'd like to add to what Attorney Christina said. I think it's very important that you have awareness seminars and awareness. But to me, the first place of learning is the home. Pag bastos yung bata, siguro bastos yung magulang. Or yung mga nakapaligid sa bata, baka bastos rin. And it becomes a norm that it is because you hear it from your... It's like domestic violence. Incidentally, if the sexual harassment already goes to the level of domestic violence, then apart from filing that bawal bastos, you can also file under Republic Act 9262. My point here is, let's not blame anybody. Let's just start with values education at home, because we are the primary teachers, and that should be followed up by a curriculum in the learning institutions which teaches the value of respect for human dignity and women's rights being human rights.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Value formation in the home while people are young. So that they will develop the respect. Just a quick question on time. Is there a time element? If the act was happened like years ago, is that still possible to be brought up or no more?
It depends how long. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Attorney Lorna, go ahead.
Now, in fact, all the difficult questions I'm giving to you. You answered that question.
I cannot say exactly how many years, but there is a prescriptive period for them to file.
Okay. So thank you very much. You know, this is such an interesting topic, but we do have a part 2 that's happening right after this. So may I call Mylene to come and Len to please join me on the virtual stage. And if Chair Sandy is around as well from PCW, we'd like to thank our speakers for their wonderful sharing. We learned a lot. I did, I know. And Mylene, would you like to read the certificate of appreciation for Attorney Lorna?
Yes, this certificate of appreciation is presented to Attorney Lorna Kapunan, Senior Partner of Kapunan and Castillo Law Offices, for imparting valuable insights during the I Am Woman WOMENar Learning Series, I Am Safe, Safe Space Anti-Harassment, given this 19th day of August 19th, 2021. Thank you so much, Lorna.
Maraming
you,
salamat,
Mylene.
Lorna. And then
Maraming salamat din.
can we have the next one, please? Okay.
Yes,
Mylene?
and this, yes, for the same text, we have a certificate of appreciation for Attorney Christine Yuzon Chavez, the Executive Director of the Philippine Commission on Women, for imparting valuable insights during the I Am Woman WOMENar Learning Series, I Am Safe, Safe Space Anti-Harassment, given this 19th day of August 2021. Thank you so much, Attorney Lorna and ED Cray.
Okay, and I understand we're gonna have a quick photo op right
Yes, for
now.
all of you. Yes. Okay, everyone, please switch on your videos. Everyone in this conference, yes, in this call. All right.
Okay, so I believe there are how many? 4. So wax.
4 pages. 4 pages. Okay, everyone, switch on your videos, please. Okay, all right, Sir Wax, let us know. Okay, first page. All right, just keep smiling because we don't know which page you are at. Okay, just keep smiling, please. All right, okay. Beautiful smiles. All right. Okay. All right, next page. Okay, Sir Wax.
All right, I believe that's it. So thank you very much, everyone. You may now turn off your videos, and we will now watch a short presentation before we move on to the part 2. So this is Monette Hamlin. Thank you so much for attending the first part.
Thanks,
Wow.
Attorney Lorna. Thanks, Attorney Cray.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Rosaline.
We're taking back the power, cause we deserve it. A women's rights, a human right. We want an equal voice, equal pay, equal rights. Taking back the power, cause we deserve it. A women's rights, a human rights. We want an equal voice, equal pay, equal rights.
This one is for my daughter, born to be a leader, a visionary, powerful. The truth is what I feed her. You can know the difference very second that you meet her. Cause this new breed of woman ain't playing the backseater. No prima ballerina making half cause you Latina. 1 in 4 women homeless cause someone beat her. Respect that we deserve is the power that we earn. Hashtag me too, my body, my turn.
We need reunification. Cause we treat the genders like 2 different nations. And we don't have time to be having no patience. Remember last time that we waited for changes. I like a woman that stands for what's right. I like a woman that stands for right. Still go to work just as often that bad. Cause she only make half what the men make at night.
We're taking back the power, cause we deserve it. A women's rights, a human right. We want an equal voice, equal pay, equal rights. Taking back the power, cause we deserve it. A women's rights, a human rights. We want an equal voice, equal pay, equal rights.
When we stand in
in allegiance, we will never be defeated. She is so powerful but mistreated. I've seen what society thinks she should be, but every single woman is unique. You are different, you are gifted. Stronger than you know, they can never take your soul. Broken, beaten, torn to pieces. Stronger than you know, they can never take your soul.
We've been chastised and laughed at, but women always bounce back. Limit my abilities, I'm swerving way past that. Hold up, they ain't grasp that. We can never backtrack. Women run the world, and that's a fact. Snap or cap that. Wanna make a change? Oh, that's funny, me too. They objectifying women and they thinking it's cool. Wanna talk about equality? I'm joining in too. I'm Dakota. I guess you could call me Mrs. Me Too.
We're taking back the power, cause we deserve it. A women's rights, a human right. We want an equal voice, equal pay, equal rights. Taking back the power, cause we deserve it. A women's rights, a human rights. We want an equal voice, equal pay, equal rights.
Powerful beyond belief, I breathe soul into life. Not despite of, because I am women. I am the revolution, ancestral calling, sojourner's truth. Susan B. Anthony and Ida B. Wells paved the way so that Ava DuVernay could create today. Blinded by divinity, our powers go on to infinity. United pillars of liberty.
We're taking back the power, cause we deserve it. A women's rights, a human right. We want an equal voice, equal pay, equal rights.
Thank you. And now may we call on Attorney Lorna Kapunan to start moderating the second part of the show.
Okay, now we come to the more controversial part, and I'd like to moderate this second part of the show. But before that, just a brief introduction. So we have learned, as moderators have said, President Mylene and our Chair Monette, we have learned from the previous sessions how a woman is empowered, how she is and can be a leader, how a woman can be an effective communicator, a champion marketer, and a strategist par excellence. But today, you will learn that we women, in order to reach our potential and achieve our goals, must be in a safe place. Whether you're a strategist, communicator, leader, marketer, we all must be in a safe place, whether it is at work, at home, in public spaces, and now in cyberspace. Our space must be a safe space for us to, as the video has showed you, for us to take back our power, for us to take back and claim our own power as alpha women, or as we should be, leaders in our value, in our own rights. Women should not be blamed or shamed for being women. We have to be respected and recognized for what we are worth. The days of objectifying women should be gone. We are not property, we are not chattel, we are not objects that can be pushed or poked or ignored or owned or possessed. We are human beings. We have rights. We are women, and women's rights are human rights. My message to all of you, please read my lips. Sexual harassment is illegal. You can go to jail or to pay a big fine. There may be several kinds of harassment. There's physical harassment, there's psychological harassment, emotional harassment, verbal abuse. There also is visual harassment. It can be in any form. It can come from anyone, a superior, a subordinate, an equal at work, a peer. It could be a family member, it could be a relative. It can come from the aggression or the harassment can come from anyone. And anybody can be a victim. You don't have to be female. You could be male. You could be an LGBT. You could be a minor. You could be a senior citizen. You can be anyone. So anyone can be an aggressor and anyone can be a victim. What is important is we must change mindsets. No longer does a woman or should a woman think that she should be sexy or look sexy at the workplace in order to be noticed. In fact, when sexual harassment happens in the workplace or in learning institutions, sometimes there is blaming and shaming, and it is the woman who is blamed when sexual harassment happens. It is the woman who is blamed for a neckline that shows her breast or a slit in her skirt that shows her intestines. Women no longer should dress sexy to be recognized. Women also should not feel that they are one of the boys, and to be one of the boys, they must drink in bars, share or mouth the same green jokes just to be accepted. A reminder to all of us, respect begets respect. Courtesy also begets respect. So if we want a safe space, we have to demand and we have to deserve that safe space and not accept annoying, harassing, disrespectful behavior, whether from any person, peer, or even subordinates. And of course, we must speak up and say no. Read my lips. No. And enough. If we do not say no or enough, and we will be silenced forever. When we find ourselves as victims of illegal, immoral, and unethical, unacceptable wrongdoing, we must speak up. And if we see others doing this aggression and doing this sexual harassment, if we see other victims being bullied or victimized by sexual offenders or bullies or harassers, we also have to intervene on their behalf and say, stop. Today, we will share the journey of three of our sharers, co-authors in this last chapter of this webinar. And we will hear how they have implemented safe space in their respective establishments. Our first speaker is Rosemary Ong. Rosemary pens or is the author of a regular column for the property section of the Philippine Star entitled Rose to the Occasion. She says, and I quote her, "Who says that building and construction are for men only? I consider myself," says Rose, "the rose among the thorns of this quite challenging industry. I hope women, daughters, wives, mothers, and comadres will be inspired," says Rose, "to be their awesome selves in their relationships with their families, friends, colleagues, and society." Rosemary has written about how to make the home a safe haven of rest and comfort. Today, Rosemary joins us to share how she has made Wilcon, which is her second home, a safe space. Please welcome, everyone, the Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Wilcon Depot. She is the current president of the Philippine Retailers Association and an awardee of the International Women's Entrepreneurial Challenge Awards. Rosemary Bosch Ong, the rose among the thorns. Take it away, Rose.
Not in this webinar, attorney. Thank you for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me share with you my case. Okay, I am a woman and I am safe. So I feel safe, especially with women around me. As women, we all deserve to be in a place where we feel respected and celebrated as individuals and professionals. We all wanted to be in a workplace free of violence, harassment, and even gender standards. Safe spaces are essential for us women, and as women leaders, let us be at the forefront of promoting this policy, which can lessen unacceptable behaviors, practices, or threats that are likely to result in physical, psychological, or sexual harm. I don't know where I will attribute this part of my story. A good number of years of my life, I have been part of Wilcon. And at that time, gender awareness and development has not been heard of until, of course, late in the decade. In my early years at Wilcon, I have to say that I appreciate our chairman emeritus, our founder, for looking beyond gender, looking beyond who you are rather. So what you can contribute to the growth of the company is what matters. And of course, competence is what matters more. I would say that there were special instances that really tapped me to exert effort to be seen beneath the surface, beyond my beauty, and of course, for them to learn that I am someone beyond the surface, that I have the brain, the substance, the experience, and the reason to help trailblaze things in the industry. Later on, I met professionals who were architects, interior designers, engineers, and we all found a common footing to together stand out regardless of. Now more than ever, we have a critical role in creating a safe workplace for our employees. Wilcon Depot, a publicly listed company, have several policies for employees' protection, and one of them is the Occupational Safety and Health Policy to protect all our employees from injuries, accidents, or illnesses. In addition, every Wilcon branch has a safety committee headed by a safety officer that upholds these measures. We also have a policy on sexual harassment, including providing a Safe Space Act that protects everyone from gender-based harassment in the workplace. We are effectively implementing this policy by educating all employees about the sexual harassment policy of the company from the start of employment. Furthermore, with the growing use of technologies, the company also has a zero tolerance policy against bullying and cyberbullying. During orientations, these policies are explained to new employees, effectively reducing risks and conflicts in the workplace. For awareness and effective dissemination, the policies are posted in the employees portal. We also have a reporting mechanism so that victims of harassment can report directly to HR department or the human resources department. The company conducts fair investigation on cases filed. There's also a method that provides due diligence and makes our employee feel safe in coming forward and raising concerns through the company's whistleblowing policy. This approach gives our employees freedom to report matters internally about wrongdoings, malpractices, or unethical and illegalities in the company. An inclusive workplace give equal opportunity to all employees, regardless of gender, race, religion, color, or age. Wilcon recognizes the importance, the strength, and the skills of different individual personalities, their backgrounds and experiences. We embrace diversity and ensure that employees feel comfortable to be themselves. Any form of discrimination should not be tolerated. To give an example, I'm confident to say that we in Wilcon look at someone beyond the surface. And I would say that it's also true for our employees who consider themselves from the LGBTQIA plus community. And since what matters to us is their competence, they hustle with us in our journey towards success. In retrospect, Wilcon makes sure that our transgender employees feel safe and heard. Also, we make sure that new hires who are not comfortable at being expressive at first and then slowly ease up and become, themselves, they're treated fairly as we would with any other employee. We have expanded to become the biggest retailer for construction and finishing materials. And comes with it is our opportunity to create jobs in different areas where we are present. So we prioritizes the training of our employees. We have a learning and development department dedicated to handling our employees' overall professional development and training from rank and file to managerial position. The company enrolls high potential employees in the company's career management program, wherein they undergo mentoring, job immersion, and advanced leadership training. We ensure that all employees have an equal chance for growth and development, avoiding any form of favoritism or sexism. When it comes to employee succession and promotion, Wilcon gives equal opportunity to all employees and evaluates them based on their skills, their knowledge, and competencies on the job requirements. The promotion policy is getting managers within the organization and continuously developing all employees to thicken the talent bench organically. We also have a performance management system, a result-based evaluation wherein the KRRs and the KPIs for each department are cascaded down to all employees, and that also supports the compensation and benefits policy. With this journey to success comes their ability to step up the ladder. With expansion comes more supervisorial and managerial positions, and I'm happy to say that most of those who have journeyed with us in the early years have successfully rose from the ranks. And for some of them who have retired from their office work, they've retired with much fulfillment. In conclusion, no matter who you are, what gender, your affiliate, or your choice for yourself, you will gain other people's respect if you respect yourself first. All these policies mirror the company's values and culture and communicate its value proposition to all its employees and business stakeholders. We must strictly promote a safe workplace where misconducts and assaults are taken seriously and dealt with appropriately, making safety a priority. In addition, we must educate our employees about the policy, engage them to share the challenges they're facing. Let us encourage everyone to work with us in having a safe working environment. Let our voices be heard. Let us produce more empowered women in the workplace. With persistence and compassion, together we can make safe space a reality. Thank you and have a good afternoon to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rose. Before we go to our second speaker, I just have one short question for you. You know, many have asked about retaliation, in the workplace if you report, and you, I understand, have a whistleblowing policy. What does that entail, and what, as past President Chiki has asked, what evidence would qualify for you to listen to a whistleblower? Because it could be a matter of jealousy, or it could be a matter of putting others down. What standard of evidence how do you concretize this zero tolerance policy and whistleblowing policy in Wilcon?
Actually, it's a very good question. Initially, when someone would like to report, I mean, nobody really comes out in the open, and normally you receive it anonymously, no. So let's say you either receive it through a letter or through a text. No, what we do is we take it seriously. So, but before jumping into conclusion, like we have to investigate it. So we conduct fair investigation, and many times a lot of times this whistleblower they have concrete proof. It's like we were able to uncover in one of our branches in far-flung in Mindanao, we were able to uncover an incident wherein one of our managers, the head of the branch himself, was filtering from the company, wherein he manipulated the documentation and all this. Initially, of course, you have to weigh things. You have to balance it. You are right that it might be out of jealousy, or it might be since he's head of the branch, and he was probably imposing discipline in the workplace. So we have to weigh all of this. And of course, we do, like what I mentioned, we do fair investigation, we do interviews, we check on the records. Let's say there were reports that some of our people would filter. So what we do is we check with the system, we check and then we validate it. Once we've proven that there's concrete basis on the claims. So what we do is, aside from interviewing some of the people within the workplace, we call for like an investigation wherein there be someone who will moderate, or someone who would conduct the interview with the person who's the subject of the complaint. So we have we have to weigh all evidences and all, and there should really be a basis into it.
Okay, thank you, Rose. There will be more questions I can see in the chat group, but I'd like to say that I'm a favorite client of Wilcon. So next time I see you, I'll say zero tolerance policy. Zero rin ang increase ng rates ninyo dyan. Okay, so our second speaker, thank you, Rose. Our second speaker is Dr. Cynthia Mamon. Cynthia has journeyed from the information technology sector, where she was one of the most important tech executives in the country during her stint as president and managing director of Sun Microsystems Philippines, to where she is now. Now she is chief operating officer for the world-class amusement park Enchanted Kingdom. Cynthia is a multi-talented person. Surprisingly, her bachelor's degree was home technology, majoring in food and nutrition. And it had nothing to do with computers nor with amusement parks. In her college days, Cynthia competed in university-wide swimming competitions and was part of the University of the Philippines Los Baños cultural dance troupe. To date, currently, dancing remains to be a continuing passion for Cynthia. Cynthia and her beloved husband, Mario, believes in servant leadership and that Jesus is the real CEO. Please welcome our speaker, Cynthia Mamon, my fellow awardee, 100 most influential Filipinos in the world, as she shares with us today how she and her loving husband have made Enchanted Kingdom a magical and safe space. Take it away, Cynthia.
Lorna, I think Cynthia lost her internet. Maybe let's proceed to Jean.
Okay. Okay, we'll take Cynthia later on. Oh, there she is.
There she goes. Okay. All right, Cynthia, thank you.
I think Cynthia was going to share.
All right.
Okay, ladies, please welcome Cynthia Mamon of Enchanted Kingdom, a magical and safe space. Cynthia, are you there?
I think that was the video of Enchanted Kingdom that was going to be presented. I don't think Cynthia is here yet.
Okay, so we'll go to our next speaker while Cynthia fixes her internet connection. Our next speaker is Genevieve Ledesma-Tan. Genevieve has carved a considerable niche in the business industry through her leadership achievements in the academy. She founded Southville with only 6 students, among them her 2 children. But because of her commitment to providing high quality education, Southville has become an accredited international school with more than thousands of students. Now, Genevieve is the she is Southville's chief executive mentor and it is now a global education network. Her visionary leadership breathes life to the name Southville in the academic community. Genevieve is a worthy recipient of the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network, the MVP Bossing Award, and Go Negocios Filipina Entrepreneur Award, and the Ernst & Young's SGV Awards. Today, Genevieve shares with us how her schools are safe spaces because of the policies she has in place and the values she has instilled in the workplace. Please welcome Genevieve V. Ledesma-Tan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to the women biz members.
Hi.
Thank you, Lorna, for the gracious
No, so Jean
introduction.
is talking now and you're next. So that's just 1 minute. So come back na. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Lorna, for the beautiful introduction. And to all the ones viewing this webinar, thank you that we have something in common, our desire to make sure that there's a safe space, especially for the women. When I was vibered by Mylene regarding sharing a case, I initially told her that we don't really have dramatic, explosive cases in school. But perhaps what I'm going to share with you, which is a story. Remember, I'm coming from a school and we're so used to stories. In fact, I thought it was going to be the lion and the mouse. The lion is the perpetrator and the mouse is the victim, but in the end, the mouse wins and shows his talent and creativity and grit. But I'm going to read to you, and this is a departure from Rose Ong's statement of policies and procedures to ensure safety of women. I would read to you a case because I thought that I was going to share a case and a story. So I'll share with you, but with it, I'll share also my insights. So this is a story of sexual harassment between teachers. And just like most of you, I thought that sexual harassment was only considered harassment if it was between a person of power and a person who is under this power. But this one is a sexual harassment case between teachers, not as bombastic as maybe other cases that we read about, especially as we listen to Tulfo and the rest. But this is an ordinary situation, and because it is ordinary, it might frequently, likewise, happen in many, many situations. So despite the fact that I was hesitant, I'm sharing this with you because I think it's the ordinariness of this a situation that will make us resonate with this story. Winnie was happy to be hired at a well-known school, although she had to travel about a little less than an hour to and from school every day. On dry days, she walked from the house 2 blocks to take a jeepney ride, then another tricycle ride to the school. On rainy days, she would take a van ride, despite the fact that it's probably more expensive, but it would have saved her from chasing a tricycle and squeezing with other passengers for a jeepney seat. Winnie taught in the lower elementary school and is usual for teachers who handle very young children. Winnie was a very gentle lady in speech and manner, never wanting to be rough or loud, conservative in her looks and in her ways, gentle in the presence of everyone. She worked with a team of seasoned teachers who helped her do her job very well. And at the end of the academic year, got an excellent rating from her immediate heads. During the summer break, however, Winnie was given a summer teaching load. She worked with another math teacher, Hernan. By the way, the names are fictitious names, but the situation is true. Herman was a good teacher, pleasant and liked by his students. He's been with the school teaching for 7 years, married for 5 years with 2 children. He offered teaching tips to Winnie, and the latter was sincerely grateful for the help. Hernan helped Winnie prepare worksheets and the work plans. Winnie and Hernan would take their break together and leave the school at the same time, then went their separate ways to go home. When summer was over, however, Winnie took her summer vacation leave. Then she started getting text messages from Hernan, which made her feel very intimidated and very uneasy. The messages at first would go, "Hi, good morning," and in the evening it would go, "Good night." Winnie never replied to any of the messages. She thought that by not replying to the message, he would get the message that I'm not interested in you, or I don't like a relationship with a married man. She felt betrayed because she had very sincere intentions for the friendship. Getting more and more often, and the messages would contain verses already on love, but Winnie just chose not to reply. When the regular school opened, Winnie was assigned to a new campus, and so she felt very relieved that she would not be in the same campus as Hernan. But all this time, Hernan would send still those messages getting more and more intimate. And now there were days when team meetings were held and the entire school would have a planning session. So she knew that she was going to meet Hernan. Hernan was attentive to her, but she could not be hostile, nor had she had the strength to tell him to stop sending her messages. The text messages continued, and although not daily anymore, Winnie dreaded the meetings where he would be present. She was very passive and tried to avoid getting seated beside him. She felt that Hernan sensed her avoiding him, but she hesitated though to verbalize her dislike and discomfort because she didn't want Hernan to show the aggression. The school year was almost over, and one rainy day, Winnie was seated in the van to go home after work. Hernan suddenly boarded the van and sat beside her. Though Herman did not walk her home, she got frightened. And by this time, the fright just got too much, and so she complained to HR. The HR had to be very careful with the investigation, but because at that time, he was already in school for 7 years, and there were no complaints at all, just praises from colleagues, from parents, from teachers, or from other employees. And in fact, he was the one in charge of religious activities in school. So the HR called and had several conferences with Hernan, and he didn't say anything much during those conferences. The text messaging was getting rare, but still he persisted. Meanwhile, Winnie informed the HR that she was trying to press charges against Hernan. By the time that people would indicate their intention to reapply or for the next year, Hernan tendered his resignation. Winnie reported to the HR that the text messages have stopped. She did not press charges anymore. And so what I can see from this very maybe ordinary situation is that there is sexual harassment when the other party feels threatened, uneasy, intimidated, and scandalized. And that the HR was very good in not taking these reports for granted and seriously and immediately acted on the complaint. The organization, I think, should feel like home where people feel safe, protected, and cared for. The organization should be a safe haven away from the threats and the dangers of the outside world. And the organization should ensure that threats such as sexual harassment should be eliminated. So expectations on employee productivity is fair and just. So this is a simple story of a sexual harassment that could have escalated if it were not for the immediate response of HR.
Thank you so much, Genevieve Jen. I have a quick question before we get back to Cynthia. My question to you is, this happened between two teachers, a teacher harassing another teacher. Would, in that situation, or you being chief executive mentor, and I see this question in the chat box, is there really a profile of a sexual harasser? I mean, you are a mentor, you're used to reading people. Does a sexual harasser, I mean, well, sorry if I'm stereotyping, no? But is there a profile of a sexual harasser that you can, because I'm sure when you hired this teacher, he probably looked meek and mild, and was, in fact, in your story, was very religious and spiritual, and was well liked by others. So, parang walang profile ang sexual harasser.
I
What
have
do you
not
think?
really gone through studies that look into a profile of sexual harassment, except those that are really schizophrenic and psychotic and with a lot of social apathy, indifferent for morality, indifferent for what is right and good, and indifferent for what's evil. They cannot see the difference between good or bad. So a sociopath, I'm sure, would be a sexual harasser. But in any case, I think temptations to a normal person is normal. And it's up to the person to be able to curb or restrain himself what we look at in schools is actually their capacity to delay gratification. We look at discipline, we look at aggression, we look at their being restraint is actually restraint, the ability to be able to restrain yourself from your natural inclinations, from your natural desires for the greater good. And we look at those. We look at aggression. We look at hostility. We look at psychological test actually if some sexual aggression is there. But in this particular case, it did not, and that's why I think at the end this man has a lot of moral ascendancy for him to resign. And he didn't do anything, he didn't touch her or molest her sexually, but on his own, he knew that he crossed the line. And so on his own, he just resigned. So I think that was his way of saying that, hey, I did wrong, and that I gave way to my natural manly impulses.
Thank you so much, Jen. Very, as you said, an ordinary story, but extraordinary lessons. I hope the teacher also did not harass his students. Wala namang complaint yung mga estudyante.
Wala naman. Yeah.
Okay, so Cynthia, are you back? Apparently,
yes, I'm back.
She's back. She has magic in Enchanted Kingdom, but her internet is not magical. Okay. Cynthia, go ahead with your presentation.
Okay. Well, I don't have any slides, but first and foremost, I'd like to thank
You're sharing,
everyone.
yeah.
I'm not sharing except for the opening slide later. Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this ebook and, of course, webinar series. I probably would like to share a little bit of myself before I start. Whatever I am today, I owe it to my mother. And together with my 6 other successful siblings, my mother, Dr. Florentina Clemente Viuda de Romero, was widowed at age 39. My dad was only 40. We were 7. The eldest was 15. The youngest was 1. I was only 5 then. She was a senior dentist of the UP Los Baños Infirmary in Los Baños, Laguna, my hometown. And she practiced her dental profession all her life, even until she retired from government service. And she practiced, of course, in her private profession. Through her strong faith, hard work, self-sacrifice, outstanding achievements by her and, of course, her children, including me, she was awarded as the 1987 Outstanding Mother of the Year in December 1987 by the National Federation of Women's Clubs of the Philippines, together with being Ulirang Ina and other awards from many organizations. I was witness to how she became outstanding, as she was really a stoic, heroic mother, a woman of virtue, with indomitable faith that kept her through. And she was the one who raised us all. And so she became my role model and nothing less. I didn't have a degree in IT, but God led me to a successful career in IT when I worked for Picard under the Department of Science and Technology. And I was president of Sun Microsystems and was given an award, which is one of the most powerful women in IT, way back June 2003. So at that time, women were already recognized in the field of IT. That then a male dominated field. By the way, I'm still president of another IT company. Beacon Solutions is a systems integration company. And now I'm chief operating officer of Enchanted Kingdom, where I help my husband, who's the president and chairman of Enchanted Kingdom. I will share with you some of the things that I added to the book. As you know, Enchanted Kingdom is the country's first and world-class theme park in the country. We opened our gates to the public October 19, 1995. So by October, we would celebrate our 26 years of existence. Our mission is to provide magical experiences that give happiness. And our values, very important to us, number 1 is love of God, integrity, respect, innovativeness, and loyalty. And as you can see in this one slide, that's Eldar, our mascot. And he is actually a symbol of wisdom, a symbol of fun, and laughter and happiness that we provide to all our guests. These core values are imposed upon among all cast members, employees, business partners, and contracted agencies. As we operate rides and attractions, definitely safety is paramount. These values are considered in EK's recruitment programs as we hire for values and train for skills. Right values, as you probably know, drive good behavior and prevent misconduct. As you know, we are in the leisure and entertainment industry, so we practice diversity and inclusivity. We do have members of the LGBTQ in the entertainment team, and we love them dearly as they're very creative and artistic. All new hires, including contracted agencies, are required to take the cast members orientation program, so they will be authentic channels of magic. CMs or cast members, that's how we call our employees. Each cast member is provided a handbook of administrative rules on policy infractions, which includes ethical conduct, including sexual harassment, its offenses and sanctions. We go by the phrase, prevention is key to avoid risks, incidents, and violations. We have active employee engagement programs, e-connections, e-kalinga, team buildings, mental health webinars, and this is why our CMs, our cast members, feel EK is their second home, where they feel respected and accepted the way they are. We ensure the safety, security, happy, and healthy environment of all our cast members. After all, happy cast members make happy guests. EK Exicom is woman-dominated, with only 4 men in the executive committee. And even in Mancom, there are only 5 out of 19 in the management committee. And of course, as COO or Chief Operating Officer, I'm literally co-managing the company. So there's definitely gender and even power equality with the president and chairman, who happens to be my husband. In fact, my husband shares the bedroom and the boardroom. So I don't know where sexual harassment occurs and who harasses whom. As in the Greek wedding, my husband is the head, definitely. But I'm the neck. So where the neck goes, the head follows. But seriously, women play a different role or different roles in Enchanted Kingdom, from ride operator, ride engineer, safety officer, graphics artist, restaurant chef, and even security guards, providing equal opportunities where the values of respect and trust are practiced to prevent risks and violations of the Safe Spaces Act. In fact, we just signed up with the UN Women Empowerment Principles, so definitely we will enhance our current policies regarding empowerment of women and of course regarding the Safe Spaces Act. EK slogan, "The magic is here," means that the magical experience should come from our cast members' hearts. It should come from within, for we can't give what we don't have. We practice spirituality in the workplace by starting and ending each activity, even marketing events, with a prayer, and even relating our rides, like the Aguila, the Flying Theater, that is inspired by a Bible verse, Isaiah 40:31. Those who hope in the Lord will soar on wings like the eagle. So even the rides are inspired by biblical scriptures. So I got actually disconnected. That's why I had to reset, so to speak. So during this pandemic, as we celebrated our 25th anniversary, we even coined a theme, Celebrate EK's Magic of Faith, Hope, and Love, because we know these are exactly what we need to have so that we continue to be sustained by our faith and, of course, hope to be the light in the midst of darkness, and, of course, love that will share all this with all our cast members and guests. All cast members believe in EK's higher purpose, that we will be an extension of God's eternal kingdom, that we are an evangelized kingdom, so that we can give happiness to all our cast members and guests. This higher purpose inspires all cast members to be the best of what God wants them to be. and to give our guests a safe, magical, memorable, unforgettable experience at Enchanted Kingdom when they visit the park. As our guests leave the park, we envision that these shared memories in Enchanted Kingdom will last their lifetime. As we say to all our guests, may EK's magic stay with you and that EK's magic will live in your hearts forever. Thank you for listening and God bless.
Thank you very much.
And
Doc
these
Cynthia.
fireworks, let us be the light in the midst of darkness. God bless.
Thank you so much. Your speech was really fireworks. And we can see the sincerity, and we know now why we've always known that Enchanted Kingdom is a magical place. But now you are saying that there is spirituality in the workplace. I guess spirituality is not religiosity. No? I guess
Yes, it is not.
spirituality also means a sense of fairness, giving everybody their due and what is right and just. So my question to you, before we go to entertain other questions, is this: is I'm sure this is easy to apply amongst your own workers, and as you said, you have like-minded EXCOM members, and mostly they are women. But Enchanted Kingdom, being in several hectares of land, prime property, I'm sure you have independent contractors there.
Oh, yes,
Security
yes.
guards, janitorial services, manpower services, cleaning services. They are not your employees. They
That's
are
right.
employees of the independent contractor.
That's
How
right.
do you, or how would you instill in them the same spirituality or work ethic or a sense of giving safety and magic to Enchanted Kingdom if they have no loyalty anyway? Their loyalty is to the independent contractor who is their employer. How do you deal with that situation?
That's
And if
right.
there are infractions or violations, how do you deal with them? If the person, the aggressor, the harasser, or the person causing annoyance or is not your employee, how do you deal with that?
Number one, first question is how we are able to share this spirituality or impose upon our values. Number one is that all employees, all staff who will be assigned to Enchanted Kingdom, all go through the same cast members orientation program. And that's where we emphasize the values of Enchanted Kingdom. Even the tenant staff, even the security guards, yes, the security guards, of course, are contracted agencies. They are not part of our, they're not employed, but they are contracted. And yes, they are also required to undertake the orientation program. So that's where we try to impose upon our values, and that they know we're very strict with it, and any violation will be properly handled. Number two, yes, I think this is a very good question, because we have of course our influence or control within our own employees, right? But with contracted agencies, in fact, I think this happened many years ago. There was a case that was reported, and I think, of course, as far as DOL is concerned, because they're not our employees, we don't have a direct jurisdiction, right, over these employees. But definitely, we will get to the bottom of it. We will also, of course, work with the contracted agency for them to conduct an investigation. And as I've said, this happened many years ago. So they did go through the investigation. And because we always evaluate the performance and, of course, the management as well of contracted agencies, if they're able to sustain those values within their employees. So if they are found to be guilty, of course, they should impose that on their own employees, not by us, but by them. And of course, overall, I think that particular agency, because they did not meet our expectations in ensuring that their employees also practice the same values, definitely they reach their contract end, so they're not renewed.
Well, thank you for that. So it applies also. Your values should also be adhered to by those who work with you as independent contractors. Thank you very much, Cynthia. So
Thank you.
can we have all of the sharers, the panelists here in one? Can our moderator
Bob,
can
can
we
you-
put everybody in one screen?
Yeah, can you
Yes.
spotlight our case authors and the case lead?
Okay, so this is where we will, there you are. This is where we will open the questions to the public. The questions in my chat group I already asked. So Mylene and Monette, do you have questions or I will ask the questions?
Can go ahead, Lorna.
Okay, so Christine, let's start with you, Christine. Having had all of these 6 sessions with the Women's Business Council, and looking at our women leaders here, how would we be more actively engaging our own establishments in partnership with the Commission on Women, especially in the safe space law, especially since our office bearers, as pointed out here, the white elephant in the room, need also to be re-educated and retrained on respect for human rights. And is there a budget? Is there a budget for a Wilcon or Enchanted Kingdom or Southville schools in terms of your God budget and training? Because training, we know, is very important. Attorney Christine?
Sorry, Attorney Lorna, were you asking me about the GAD budget for them, for the private
Yes, I know it was explained the last time, no, that it's not like, yeah, well, we have to align with agencies that have a God budget. What would qualify, for instance? Having heard from these 6 sessions and this being the last session, we really need more awareness on sexual harassment and making workplaces, institutions, safe spaces. Whether you are a communicator, strategist, leader, empowered woman, you cannot be any of these if you have no safe space. So how can we partner more in our own institutions?
For now, the IRR provides that the government agencies are authorized to spend their gender and development funds for further awareness of the law within their respective agencies. However, based on the law and the IRR as well, no agency is yet authorized to release funds for private institutions for campaigns on SSA. But what we can do is we can help the private institutions in coming up with materials for them to use for the trainings in their respective institutions. So what I'm trying to say is that the funds for the seminars and orientations to be conducted in the private institutions will have to be shouldered for now because there's no budget by the government, by the private institutions themselves. But the government counterpart can help with formulation of these training modules if help is necessary.
Okay, so thank you for that. So I guess that answers many questions because sometimes it's a function of resource, and we're glad that at the very least, in terms of training materials and getting the right information out there and getting the right tools out there, we can always rely on the Philippine Commission on Women. Okay, so Rose.
Yes.
Rose, you mentioned that Wilcon is a publicly listed company, and we have many corporate listeners here now. What do you advise to publicly listed companies such as you? Because most publicly listed companies are more concerned about the bottom line. which means profit for their shareholders and their stakeholders. Is is gender sensitivity or security and safety in the workplace? Does that contribute to the bottom line? And how do you advocate for that amongst listed companies?
Okay, remember that a safe work environment is a productive work environment. I believe in that, no? So before we got listed, we're like, a family corporation. So, I mean, as I mentioned, majority, or I would say most of our managers, they all rose from the ranks. They're all fresh from the farm. We train them, we nurture them. That's why you asked me about whistleblowing, although this is related to sexual harassment, no? I guess because of that relationship, no, we have very deep relationship. There's collaboration, there's cooperation amongst every employee, so that's why. And as I've said, our genders diverse, no. In fact, just like EK, no, we have transgender, we have LGBTQ, and they're very amusing, and I would say when they apply for a job, initially they're men, and then suddenly after they're right, iba na, diba? And them, no. I guess in any organization, whether you're listed, you're publicly listed, you're publicly listed or you're not listed, no. What's important, I guess, is that you give value to the of everyone, no. So I think what's important is respect. It manifests in the way you want people to, to treat you, It mirrors the way you want people to see you, So it will be hard to be seen the way you want it to be if you don't show respect, no? Just like success and confidence, no? And as a publicly listed company, we're all obligated to, satisfy our shareholders, no? I guess based on our track record, no, when we started, we started 2017, our price is this, and now we're like 4 times 5 times already, because we want to satisfy our shareholders, maybe because of the strong values, just like EK, we have strong values, and then the culture that we've developed through the years that's still very strong, even up to now. So, it resonates to that, so maybe because of the safe work environment that we established, that we, it manifested and it become a productive work environment. That's why even up to now, even during crisis, di ba, parang our share price is still very much, I would say, people will still want to hold on to it, no? Di ba? If you're an investor, you want to hold on to it, no? So it's not like something, di ba, parang sabi nga nila, expensive daw at this time of crisis, no? Yeah, maybe because of that, no? Yung we think of people, the values, no?
So what Rose is saying is, my understanding is, the bottom line does not need to be measured in pesos and cents. In the same way that the GDP of a country does not need to be measured in pesos and cents. There are countries that measure them in terms of happiness index, no? And I think Bhutan is #1 in happiness index, and that's where Magical Kingdom, Enchanted, I think bottom line measured in terms of how many leave the establishment feeling magic and bringing magic with them. No? Does that have to do, Cynthia, with your being a family company? And as you said, your story starts not with you, but the story of your iconic mother, who taught you the value of family, the value of respect, the value of hard work. Is the secret of your magic the fact that you are a family company? And the next question is, normally millennials or our children do not want to inherit our job or do not want to inherit our business. Will your children continue with Enchanted Kingdom?
Lorna, I guess it's really a blessing. The first and foremost, of course, the visionary is my husband, of course. So he was really the one who set it up. And of course, yes, family values, because he too came of a very good family. So both our families really got good upbringing. Together as a couple, definitely we as they say, it's not baton that's passed, but actually the strong faith, and values that are passed on to the next generation. And you're right, because it so happens that, as I've said, it's a blessing because not all next generation, children would want to be involved in the same company. But I'd like to share that we're blessed because 3 of our 4 children are now working in the company. And I guess it's not because they're children, our children, but because they acquire the education in different industries. They worked outside and have gained their own successes. So, for example, the first one, Yoni, the eldest, worked for Hong Kong Disney. So because of his background, he's now head of creative, the one who manages all our entertainment. The eldest daughter had MBA in USF and worked for a digital media company. So that background helped her to now be head of our business development and digital transformation. So they got the education and the training and the expertise from other companies, and they bring it to us to share with us. And the second girl is also with us. She has an IT background, also finished MBA. She worked for systems integration companies, and now she's data privacy officer. And so all of them with their expertise, they're sharing with us. And we're happy that somehow they witness how we take care of our employees, especially this pandemic. Of course, the youngest is still not joining us. He's gaining experience in hotels. He's a hotelier in 4 Seasons. So definitely our private joke is that we have to build the hotel for him to come home. So Lorna,
Thank you.
yes, we are blessed
Thank you
that
so
the
much.
next generation like to like their job,
And that's
not by
why it
force.
is. That's why it is a safe space. It is a safe space
Safe
because
space.
of all the values. We have a
Family.
question, and I think I'll ask Dr. Jean to answer this. From attorney Dulce Ponsalan, she asks about gender neutral policies. Okay, in your example of a teacher, male teacher harassing a female teacher, what if it were the reverse? The female teacher harassing a male teacher? Is there a difference? And what if the boss is female, like the principal is female and the teacher is male? Is that very clear in your policies? It must be gender neutral.
I think so. I think, yeah, we've heard of cases like those, vice presidents, but not in my school, vice presidents liking macho PE teachers, you know. I think we have to be fair. Men and women have to have a safe space in the workplace. It should be, it's like when I enter the village where I stay in, I feel just somehow psychologically and emotionally secure because I know that I'm safe. And for men and women likewise, I think that the institution should be a place where people feel safe inside, regardless of whether they are men, women, or LGBT. Surprisingly, and this is perhaps I'd like to expand a little bit, even if we are neutral about accepting gays in our school, we don't actually, it's not taken against them. We welcome them. Many of them have really good talents. Many of them are superb in their fields of expertise, but we put a little break or a little guideline in terms of decorum. We don't allow any LGBT to dress up like a woman, because we would like our students to respect them. And I think it was mentioned by Rose so often, you have to be respected, and we have to ensure that the students don't heckle, don't laugh behind you, and also don't get distracted. When you have someone that you think is a gay is a man and then becomes magical and becomes a gay. Somehow there's some identity issues with students. And
That's
you know,
right.
at a very young age, if the person happens to be very influential, then the student generally would associate themselves or want to be with that person. So we'd like the person to go to a natural environment first, where there is a clearer dichotomy among sexes. And if indeed in the future they decide to be somewhere in between, then we would respect them. They bring a certain talent and a certain gayness and a joy in the community. But we don't want to cross the line such that our students become disrespectful and become confused as they are still developing their sense of identity, because we all know that if you're in the third sex, you actually have more challenges to cope with, more stereotyping, and we don't want to unnecessarily put them in that situation. So we allow, but then we also try to put a safe space for them such that they are respected as they are human beings and as they are supposed to be seen as people with dignity and with respectability.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jen. So we now end the Q&A portion and go to learnings. If anyone was to take away anything from your sharing, what would you want them to take away? Let's start with Rose, followed by Cynthia and Dr. Jean. What is your takeaway? What do you want them to take home with them from this webinar? Rose?
Yeah, attorney, I'd like to quote a civil rights activist. Her name is Maya Angelou. And this is what she said. Each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it passively, without framing it, stands up for all women. So as women leaders, we have to take our stand. If our employees don't see us giving value to safety in the workplace, they won't think that safety is essential. So remember, as I've said earlier, a safe work environment is a productive environment. Safe place for women, regardless of what gender or LGBT or whatever, is very important no matter what industry we are in. It is our moral responsibility to take care of our employees. We have to keep in mind that promoting safe workplace isn't expensive. It's priceless. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rose. Safe place is a productive place. Thank you for that. Cynthia?
For all women, I would advise to to know and value their self-worth. I believe that it is knowing your self-worth actually generates self-respect, which is the cornerstone of all virtues. We need to build that self-respect with competence, so that you won't be bullied in the workplace. Confidence, so that you know your self-worth and will be fighting for it. Character, compassion, charity, and of course, Christ-centeredness. And I still believe in that old adage saying, the hand that rocks the world, the cradle rocks the world. That's very powerful for women to know their value. We define the future leaders. We define the future sons who will respect women. We define the future generation. So I think that's very powerful. Remember that. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world.
Thank you very much. And as you said, Cynthia, we have to define. We have to define ourselves first before we have to define others. So let's define ourselves. Let's know our self-worth so that everywhere around us will be a safe space. Thank you for that. Dr. Jean?
Hi, from
Our
the
learnings?
sharing, yeah, I actually learned a lot from the ones sharing. I think my first takeaway is that women should not only keep quiet if they are being harassed. Women and organizations in particular should give seminars to their women about their rights so that they will not feel alone and they will not feel deviant if ever they have to say something against what they are feeling. So I think knowledge is power. And number two, I mentioned earlier that the organization should actually ensure that threats such as sexual harassment should be eliminated. So expectations that they should be productive, likewise, will be fair and just. If there is harassment, then you don't feel comfortable, you get distracted from giving your best. And so by diminishing it and taking it away, you can expect productivity and a harmonious workforce where there is care and safety and love.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jean. From Dr. Jean, we have learned that a harmonious place, such as all her Southville. I think it's the wrong example for sexual harassment because Southville should be Exhibit A for safe educational institutions. So thank you for your sharing, Dr. Jean. And to all our panelists, I have here, I would like to share, I had here written sharings, but I will not go there because you have said it all. And the best words that I can say are actions speak louder than words. So I'd like you all, you panelists, to take off your scarf today. Take it all off.
Picture first. Wait, Lorna.
Picture
Our
first.
picture
We will put it
Monet
on.
with Monet
Picture.
and Edie Gray.
Bring back picture. We dressed up for
picture
this,
first.
right?
Yeah, we dressed
Yes,
up.
we
Yeah,
dressed
about
up.
the
We
scarf.
dressed up for this.
We still have 91 participants here on Zoom
We
because
have
of
another
the
90 watching.
yes, and I will give you two advice before the picture taking, and it is very and it will very practical, and you will remember it till the day you die. Sasabihin nyo, ito ang advice sa akin ni Attorney Kapunan. Pag may nagbabastos, ilalabas ko yung scarf ko at sasakaling ko na lang. Okay? And that is figuratively and literally speaking. When you see a harasser, be it, and if it's in the house, if it's domestic violence, my advice at last session, sa 10 Commandments ni Evelyn Singson, sabi ko, pag umaabuso yung mga asawa nyo, lasunin nyo na lang yung kape. Idadagdag ko ngayon sa session na to, pag meron kayong nakitang harassment, pag may nakita kayong nang babastos, maglabas na lang kayo ng scarf, okay? At taliin nyo na lang yung neck at mamatay na lang siya sa kabastusan niya. That is my advice, figuratively and literally. One act of sexual harassment is one act too many. So take out your scarves, say no when you have to say no, say enough when you see it being done, and when all else fails, strangle the perpetrator. Maraming salamat po. Have a safe space around you. Put back your scarves. Do not strangle yourselves.
Thank you,
And
Lorna.
thank you. That is my advice for today.
Thank you very much, Lorna, and our speaker, Edie Gray, and Jean. Thank you so much, Rosemary and Cynthia. That is awesome, but please do not kill, huh? That is also bad. So I would like to thank everyone for being with us for the last of the 6-part series of Womenars. This one was I Am Woman, I Am Safe. And I know that you as the participants as well as I have learned so much in terms of how we can keep the people in our workplaces and at home safe. So can you go to the next page, please? Yes, as I mentioned in the previous webinars, that all the learnings, all the sharings that have happened in the past 6 seminars, webinars, will be put together in this book called I Am Woman, a gender-responsive guide for business and corporate leaders. And this ebook will have as well links to the different material that was provided to you during these seminars. So you can order this book. This will come out on September 16. And tell us how many copies you would like to order of this book. Later, there will be an evaluation form. If you click on that, you can indicate your name and whether you want to have a copy of the book or not. Next page, please. Yes, we do have messages of support. This one is from the Philippine Commission of Women. Thank you, Chair Sandy, for being with us in this journey. And next page, please. As well as from our Secretary Ramon Lopez of the Department of Trade and Industry. Thank you so much. DTI is doing a lot to help empower women in the Philippines. Next page, please. Yes, so we'd like to just make announcements on some upcoming events that we have. On August 25, we have the Promoting Sustainable and Inclusive MSMEs through Gender Responsive Mentoring. The registration link is shown on the screen. Next, please. Yes, we do have MamaCon. This is a project of Team Asia, and our partner is the Women's Business Council. So MamaCon is a 2-day conference for mothers. Next page, please. On September 11 and September 18. So 2 Saturdays with very interesting talks during this period. And I just want to highlight some of them. What is a woman's worth? I saw your child online is on cyberbullying. Are you turning into your mom? The rainbow family is for the spectrum kind of families where the dad and the mom are both his or she's. We have age of online mompreneurs, and for those who are too busy doing a lot of unpaid care work, there is the 15-minute cooking time. We do have lots, 4 actually mom-spirational speakers. We have Mirella Sula. We have the last speaker that we had during the inclusive leadership. That's Rosario Cahucom Bradbury. She is coming in to talk on September 18 on pioneering inclusivity. So please join us. The next page, please. You can see the link. You just need to take a picture of that QR code, or you can go to our website, which is mamacon.teamasia.com. Okay, it's also on Facebook. You can look for MamaCon. Next page. We do have We Rise. This is a 2-day event happening August 25 and 26 as well. And please do register for this. We will be talking about women empowerment in the workforce. Next, here's the evaluation link. Please do click on that. We need your feedback so that we will know how to come together in terms of bringing you better events in the future. And we also want your feedback on the presentations that were done today and our speakers and what learnings you had. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today at the last WOMENar show. And maraming salamat sa lahat ng speakers, our case authors, our chapter leads. This is Monette Hamlin, chairperson of the Women's Business Council, saying thank you so much and please stay safe. We'd like to end this with a song from the UN Woman called One Woman.
In Kigali, she wakes up. She makes a choice. In Hanoi, Nata, Ramallah. In Tangier, she takes a breath, lifts up her voice. In Lahore, La Paz, Kampala. Though she's half a world away, something in me wants to say, we are one woman. You cry and I hear you. We are one woman. You hurt and I hurt too. We are one woman. You're holding She reaches out, then teaches others how to. In Jaipur, she gives her name. She lives without shame.